Hello, and welcome to Budget Commander. On this channel, we'll discuss Magic the Gathering topics with a focus on playing Commander on a budget. We'll cover things like deck building, top cards, deck techs, and more. Let's get started. Hello friends, today we have an Obzedat Ghost Council deck tech for you. This is a budget deck tech, specifically 2DH, meaning all the cards in the deck are $2 or less, with the exception of the Commander, which is $5 or less. Obzedat Ghost Council is a 5-to-cast 5/5 Spirit Advisor that reads, when Obzedat Ghost Council enters the battlefield, target opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile Obzedat. If you do, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of your next upkeep. It gains haste. The goal of this deck is to drain our opponent's life totals and politic our way to victory. We're going to start out with our ramp. We have Talisman of Hierarchy, Orzhov Locket, and Orzhov Cluestone, which are mana rocks for us that provide both our colors. We can sacrifice the Locket and the Cluestone to help us draw cards later on in the game. Mind Stone, Hedron Archive, and Pristine Talisman add us colorless. We gain life off the Pristine Talisman, and both the Mind Stone and Archive we can sacrifice also later in the game to help us draw cards. Then we've got cards that keep our hand full. Knight's Whisper, Read the Bones, Sign in Blood. We're able to trade in 2 life for 2 cards. Read the Bones has the added benefit of allowing us to scry 2 beforehand. Ambition's Cost and Ancient Craving are the exact same cards. Trade in 3 life and draw 3 cards. We have also Grim Haruspex, which is a 3/2 human wizard for 3. And he says whenever another non-token creature you control dies, draw a card. So great way to protect our board from board wipes or keep our hand full should our opponent wipe our table. More card draw, we have Harvester of Souls, Blood Gift Demon, and Greed. The Blood Gift Demon, we're going to choose ourselves usually to draw a card and lose a life, unless maybe we can finish off an opponent by taking that 1 life away from them that turn. Greed allows us to trade in 2 life for a draw, and then Harvester of Souls is similar to the Grim Haruspex. Whenever a non-token creature dies, you may draw a card. Comes on a bigger body with Death Touch, so that helps us defend ourselves or maybe attack into opponent, which is nice. Tasty Tutors, we got Diabolic Tutor as our only tutor in the deck. It allows us to get any card we want to our hand. It is expensive, but we're playing on a budget here, so this will help us get whatever removal we need, or if we're able to apply pressure, then we can go search up that card we need. Cards that help us recur things. Palace Siege, you get to choose between Khans and Dragons. Usually you're going to choose Khans because at the beginning of your upkeep, you're going to be able to return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Allows you to recast those, maybe get some enter the battlefield triggers. Otherwise, Dragons is also good, draining each opponent for 2 life and gaining us 2 each turn. Victimize allows us to trade in a creature for 2 creatures and return those 2 creatures to the battlefield. On Burial Rites, return a creature from our graveyard to the battlefield. It also has flashback, so we're going to get 2 creatures out of it. Lastly, for Recursion, we have Treasury Thrall. Thrall, it's a 4/4, has Extort, which is nice because it allows us to drain our opponents more, which goes in line with our deck. But on attack, we can return an artifact, creature, or enchantment from our graveyard to a hand. So if there's any open opponents, swing this guy in and get some extra cards. For scrying, we have Hidden Stockpile, which at the beginning of each end step, if we had a permanent leave the battlefield this turn, at the beginning of our end step, if we had a permanent leave the battlefield this turn, we can create a servo token. It's just a 1/1 body, but better yet, it has the ability to allow us to pay 1 and sacrifice a creature. So if an opponent's going to remove one of our creatures, we can just sack it and at least get a scry out of it. But with Obzedat on the battlefield, if we stack our end step triggers with Obzedat first, every single turn we're going to have a creature leave the battlefield, so we're always going to be getting triggers off of this. We can also sacrifice a creature to the stockpile to give us that permanent leaving the battlefield each turn. So we get a lot of control over when and how much we're going to be scrying. Cards that help us remove our opponent's creatures, Stasis Snare, Journey to Nowhere, and Fiend Hunter, are going to all banish our opponent's creatures until they leave the battlefield. I love targeting my opponent's commander with these because it gives them a tough decision of whether they send their commander back to the command zone or leave it in exile. Condemn, Victim of Night, and Necrotrawl are all conditional removal. Necrotrawl can only get rid of non-artifact, non-black creatures. Victim of Night can only get rid of non-zombie, non-werewolf, non-vampire creatures, and Condemn can only get rid of creatures that are attacking. Nice thing about Condemn is we can use it as a political tool to save an opponent, but usually we're going to be saving ourselves from an attack. Also, it's nice that we put that card on the bottom of our opponent's library as opposed to in their graveyard, because it's just harder to get that card back. Fleshbag Marauder and Merciless Executioner force everybody to sack a creature when they enter the battlefield. If we're making those servos, that's an easy target for us. Butcher of Malakir on any creature that dies of ours forces each of our opponents to sack creatures, so he's great to have on the battlefield. Keep it clear, or at least they have to remove him first and everybody's still sacking something. Unmake and Murder help us just get rid of anything. Shriek Maw gets rid of non-artifacts and non-black creatures. If we have a way to recur it from the graveyard, then we might choose to evoke it, but you're probably usually going to want to play this as a creature because it has Fear, which means black creatures and artifact creatures are the only kinds of creatures that can block it. Otherwise, he's essentially unblockable on a 3/2 body. Not super huge, but it is nice to be able to get in for 3 damage unblockable. Board Wipes. End Hostility is going to destroy all creatures and the permanents attached to them. So this protects us from those Voltron decks. Gets rid of all the auras and equipment. Archfiend of Depravity kind of goes the opposite way, where it forces our opponents to choose their 2 favorite creatures and sacrifice the rest. So any of those go wide or token strategies are going to struggle against the Archfiend. And then Rout, just a solid destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated. 5 to cast at sorcery speed, but if we want to pay 7 for it, we can do it at instant speed. So nice to be able to do on our opponent's end step, and then we get to untap first should the game play out that way. Last board wipe we have is Planner Outburst, which destroys all non-land creatures. If it's late in the game or we have a ton of extra mana, we don't have any cards in our hand, we can pay the Awaken cost, so 5 and 3 white, which will give us a 4, turn one of our lands into a 4/4 elemental. A little extra added value there. Forsake the Worldly is going to help us get rid of artifacts and enchantments. We can cycle it if we need an extra draw. Oblivion Ring and Banishing Light get rid of anything. High Priest of Penance can get rid of anything, but we might have to use our opponents a little bit to get this off. We might have our opponent attack into our High Priest of Penance or attack into an opponent and have them intentionally block so that we can get rid of a different player's permanent that is causing us trouble. Otherwise, it's just a great deterrent. It sits on the battlefield and people don't want to attack into him because they're probably going to have something blown up as a result. Mortify is going to get rid of a creature or an enchantment for us. Sin Collector plucks an instant or sorcery out of our opponent's hand and puts it into exile. And then Kaya's Guile has each opponent sacrifices a creature and exile all cards from each opponent's graveyard. Those are probably the 2 that you're going to pick every time because you get to pick 2 when you cast it for 3. However, you can entwine it for 6, which gives you those first 2 triggers, but also gives you a 1/1 spirit with flying, and you can gain 4 life. If our opponents aren't playing Recursion, I'm probably just going to have each opponent sack a creature and gain 4 life, because padding that life total helps with some of our cards that like having a high life total. Profane Memento, Soul Warden, and Suture Priest are all going to help us gain life. Suture Priest is also going to help ping our opponents for 1 every time they have a creature enter the battlefield. And then we're going to gain more life with Chalice of Life. Tap it, gain a life. But if we have 10 life, more than our starting life total, we can flip Chalice of Life into Chalice of Death, which allows us to cause people to lose 5 life, which is a pretty healthy chunk. And then Blind Obedience gives extort, another extort trigger, and slows all of our opponent's plans down because all their creatures and artifacts are entering the battlefield tapped. So great as an anti-acceleration for our opponents. More cards that are going to help us drain life. Cabal, Council of Allocation, drains our opponents for 2 life and gains us 2 whenever they cast non-creature spells. Zulaport Cutthroat drains each opponent for 1 and gains us a life whenever Zulaport or another creature dies. And then Grey Merchant of Asphodel, when it enters, is going to drain each opponent's life total for X, and we're going to gain X, where X is our devotion to black. Great card to recur over and over again. Can win us the game if we were able to play that turn over turn. Vampire Nighthawk, Teysa, Envoy of Ghosts, and Flicker Wisp are just great utility cards. Vampire Nighthawk sits out as a great deterrent. It's flying and death touch, so it's probably going to be able to trade with most cards on the battlefield. It does have lifelink, so that's a nice extra. Teysa is a vigilant creature with protection from creatures, so you're going to be able to swing for 4 without being blocked every turn. She can block any grounded creatures, no problem. But anybody that attacks us and deals damage to us, Teysa just destroys that creature and turns it into a 1/1 spirit creature with flying for us. So she's a creature that opponents immediately have to deal with, assuming they're playing creature strategies. And then Flicker Wisp just helps us get another ETB off of one of our creatures. Burly Bigs, Felidar Sovereign is a 4/6 with Vigilance and Lifelink, but more importantly, if we play him and we get to untap with him, as long as we have 40 or more life, we're going to win the game. This is no problem with this deck. Blood Baron of Vizkopa is a 4/4 pro-white, pro-black lifelinker, and if we have 30 or more life and opponent has 10 or less life, he gains +6/+6 and flying, so he becomes a very difficult creature to deal with. And then Ajani's Pridemate comes in as a 2/2 for 2, so nothing special there, but we gain a lot of life throughout the game, and he's going to get a +1/+1 counter each time we do that, so he's going to get huge over the course of the game. It's always fun to swing at people with a giant creature. Our land package is really simple. We have 2 multicolored lands in Tainted Field and Caves of Koilos. They give us both of our colors. Leech-ridden Swamp can drain each of our opponents for 1 life on activation. Temple of the False God helps accelerate us a little bit, and then we have 17 plains and 17 swamps. This deck had a 1-star rating for acceleration, 2 stars for consistency, 5 stars for control, and 3 stars for speed. If you're somebody who enjoys playing the political game at the table, this is probably the deck for you. Give it a whirl. Let me know how it goes. Otherwise, let me know in the comments which commander you want to see next. Have a good one. Peace. Thanks for watching. You can help support this channel by hitting that subscribe button. This will help keep you up to date on content from Budget Commander. If you liked the video, make sure you like the video. Leave me a comment with your thoughts on this topic. And if you think someone else could benefit from this video, feel free to share. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk with you next time.